live once again. Everybody hear me okay? I got the big mic working again. Had a problem. Where did it go? There it is. Had a problem last week with it. It's actually the motherboard on the computer that I had it plugged into a dead USB port. And didn't discover the problem until after the show. So anyway, we're good to go. So let's say hi to everybody. And who do we have here? Quasimodo got the cookie. Quasi, I don't know. You come in just for the cookie. Then I'll hear from you. I don't know if you're lurking or what. But anyway, enjoy that cookie. Let's see. Tom Grassi got the half cookie. Tom, congratulations on the half cookie. And good to see you here. Hot Dog Pilot Andy got crumbs as usual. I don't know what it is with him and crumbs. I think he likes the crumbs. Anyway, good to see you here, Andy. There we have Gerald Stewart. He got nada. John Nippenberg. His greetings from Bristol, Virginia. And Tennessee. Cool. That's right, you're on vacation with your anniversary, right? I almost forgot about that. Let's see, who else we got here? Derek Alexander. Good to see you, Derek. Glad you're here. Tennessee River Union Railroad. Howdy. Good to see you here. Tom's Trains and Things. Hey, Tom. Good to see you here, man. We got Chuck Schreiber. Chuck, good to see you. And who else? Colonel Cottonbill. Hey, Jason, good to see you here, man. And I love that name, Colonel Cottonbill. Too cool. And Nashville Steam. Thomas. Change your name again, I see, huh? I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, though. Yeah, anyway. Everybody's fighting over Jim's moldy cookies from last week. Penicillin dose, anyone? Good one, Jason. I love it. So, that's everybody. Hope y'all had a good week so far. A little bit going on here. Not a whole lot. I got the printer running. And I want to show you what I'm printing. It's this right here. And this is for Nashville Steam, Thomas. Thomas, you're a pain in the ass, but I'm going to print one more thing for you, and that's going to be about it. Wasted too many resources. But I got it printing right here. Let me go back. I don't know if you can really see it. Now, I only started it back at 5 o'clock. It's like a 6-hour print. So it's going to take a while. And I don't know if it'll come out right or not. Fingers crossed. That was the biggest I could do, would be on the filament printer. I could do it in a resin printer, but it's going to be much smaller. So we'll try the filament printer first. Derek Alexander. Like gas station sushi, huh? Okay. See, Jason's got the right idea. Spike Man. Yeah, we should just start calling him Spike Man anyway. You know. Fuck his name change. We'll just keep calling him Spike Man. Let's see what else we got going here. Tennessee River says we can all use a good dose of penicillin. That's probably true. I'm not quite sure about that, but I don't know, man. You know, I woke up this morning at 5 o'clock. I went to bed at 2. And I woke up absolutely completely refreshed. It was weird. But then it didn't hold. By 7 I was ready to go back to sleep. And I did up until 12:30. But when I got up, well, it finally got light out. It was around 6:45 thereabouts. Complete. I looked outside and there was complete white fog everywhere. It was thick as pea soup. And Deb was kind of freaked out about it. You'll never see fog like that before. I said, well, yeah, it's real thick, you know. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't go out in it. You never know. Or Spike Kid. I know. You don't get to name yourself anymore, Thomas. We get to name you now. Jason says gas. Oh, where'd it go? Gas station sushi, instant colon cleanse. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. Derek says no matter what he names his channel, we should just call him. Well, that's what I just said, Derek. You know, fuck him. Maybe they'll figure it out and go back to Spike Man. And he said, had beef burritos for dinner. Hot, they made the inside of my ears itch. That's pretty hot. Let's see what. I'm already 2 steps ahead of y'all. I said on Crooked Dave's stream last week, Thomas will forever be called Spike Man. And he should be. It's just fair, you know. Hey, Ray Bertelson, how you doing? Good to see you here. Tennessee says he loves gas station sushi. Never had it. I've never had sushi anywhere, really. Something about raw fish just doesn't do it for me, you know. Anyway, so I got that running on the printer. I found my piano wires. It's 015 15 thousandths music wire for the actuators for the servos. So I'm going to make like a V shape and then, you know, a hook on each end so that it'll compress and relax, or compress and uncompress, so it won't damage either the turnout or the servo motor. So there'll be enough spring in there to do it. This is the only way I can actually make it work. Hopefully later on this week or early next week, I'm going to shoot some video of me actually setting up one, and I'll show it to y'all next week. We'll get some actually good video for a change though. And I also got this in the mail. This came yesterday. I haven't opened it yet. I know what it is, but I'm going to do an unboxing anyway. Never get it open, right? I could have used the X-Acto knife, it would have been quicker, but the scissors are right there. Little box. This actually came from Orlando, Florida. It's from Amazon. So, I mean, originally it's probably from China. Because, you know, everything's from China. That's very funny. And he says, I'm guessing tomorrow I'll be producing Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah, you'll probably be a little sore. And Jason said, Jim, you should try a deep fried sushi roll then. I'll have to look into that. Are you getting rectifiers for your turnout? No. Actually, I've got these here. Make sure I'm caught up here. Yeah, there's nothing important there. I got these here. These are buck converters. There's kind of a deal on them. There were 10 of them for $13. They come in little packages and everything. You open one of them up. These are a little bit different and a little bit larger than the last ones I bought. It doesn't really matter though, because I have plenty of room on underneath the bench on the second level. These are pretty slick. They've got an adjustment on there, a little adjustment screw. Got a bigger variable resistor on it. The other ones were kind of difficult to adjust the voltage with. I mean, you would like go just a little bit too much and it would be like 5 volts or 7 volts. Turn it back, it would go down to 3. And in my case, I'm looking for 5 volts. I had to keep playing with it to get it to 5. For this one here, I think it's good from 1 to 15 volts, I believe, with a 12 volt input into it. So these are going to go in between the servo electrics and the power going into it. So it'll bring the 12 volt bus line, which I've mostly strung, and this will kick them down to 5 volts, so I won't fry my my servo motors. So anyway, that was a good deal for 10. I'll need more at some point. No big deal. Thomas, you have more problems than... Remember I made him a fidget spinner, a 3D one? And I knew it wasn't going to last long because it was a print in place with the bearings and everything. And the bearings fell out of it. And he doesn't know where they went. They probably fucking disintegrated. Hey, Joe Rader, Black Rock Central. How's it going, man? Yeah, right. It's late, so what? We don't care. Better late than never, right? I'm not going to make you another one, but what you should have had me do is what I wanted to do in the first place. I have real bearings, metal bearings. Small ones. I could have set one inside the spinner, and that would have solved all your problems. But you insisted on the entire thing being 3D printed. And like any good businessman, I give the customer what they want. Even if it ain't in their best interest. So. Thomas says, hey Jim, my motor arrived from China today. Just finished connecting to the power on my layout and it works. Yeah, alright, cool. So, like I said, I got to order some more stuff, but right now I have enough things to get some of the turnouts operational. The only thing I don't have, of course, is the front fascia, the fiberboard, which I'll have to buy a sheet of it, but I'll have that cut at Home Depot, so into, I'm thinking maybe 6 or 7-inch wide strips, 8 foot long. And I'll have to get a couple pieces of 1x3 as a put behind them, so it'll clear the servo motors and the servo testers. So, like I said, I'm going to try and videotape all this next week. I actually should even have enough money to buy an 8-foot section of the fiberboard 4x8, so if I can get that, I could do a start to finish on the turnouts, at least on the one side. That'll make a good video, so that's the plan anyway. Alright, Jason, have a good one, man. Nice seeing you here. Have a good weekend, safe one, and we'll see you next time. He's heading out for sushi, but not at a gas station. And he gives raw fish. The chaps can keep that. They like it. I don't know. It's you gotta be careful though. If it's not done right, it will kill you. It's extremely lethal if it's not prepared properly. So, and that's my problem. In this country, I don't trust anybody to do anything right. Probably why I would never eat it. Now, in Japan, I would probably eat it because, they're actually professionals and they're good at what they do. Plus, if they kill somebody, then they have to kill themselves, so because it's an honor thing. But I don't trust nothing anybody does here. So, speaking of which, quick side note: the Ford Ranger between 2022 and 2025, they're recalling 200,000 of them approximately for exploding side airbags. Apparently they had a sharp piece of metal behind the airbag, so when it deploys on collision, it tears and doesn't do you a shit bit of good. I don't know why the fuck they even put them things in there, If you get T-boned by something big, the airbag's just going to get in the way of the rest of the wreckage that will kill you anyway. But anyway, getting back to trains. Sardines in a can, there you go. Joe said that's bait. Oh, the sardines are bait, yeah. So anyway, I didn't really do anything over there. I strung the wires as far as I could go, the bus lines, both the DCC and the DC. And I've got to string the new ones. Matter of fact, I got butt connectors somewhere in the garage. I got to hunt them down because I got to put butt connectors for all 4 wires to bring them all the way down to the edge here. So I know I've got the ones for the 18 gauge, and I think I have them for the 14 gauge as well. They're a little bit bigger. They'd be the yellow ones and the blue ones. I know I have them. I just got to find them. I'm not as organized as I would like to be. But hey, it is what it is, So, what did Tom say here? Well, let me open up this other. It's easier to chat here. You see that one. You got to come up. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I can use the monitor here to highlight, but it's easier in front of me to see what I got. Hey, Carolina Foothills, how you doing? Good to see you here. Ray says, Jim, I tried finding the buckboards, and all I could find was DC to DC. Could not find any AC to DC. I believe these are AC to DC. I got these on Amazon. It basically, well, it's got to have a rectifier probably in the transistor or something. But I'll send you the link to it after the show. And then you can, like I said, for $13 for 10 of them, you couldn't go wrong. Let's see. Tom Grass said, Jim, when I worked on the Borgata Casino, I was able to eat in 5-star restaurant, had tuna, just singed, and that was great tasting. Oh, cool. I've never had tuna either. Never really had anything that smells like that. I generally won't eat. Anything with a high odor to it. Nashville sees, Jim, are you going to ride the sugar train next year? The wife wants me to. She wants to get on there too, so we'll see. It's gonna be probably after the New Year's sometime. We'll see what happens. And it depends how much it costs too. I mean, they had the ice cream train, which I think was $50 each. which wasn't too terribly bad. You got free ice cream with it, you know. But the other one, and it's like a 4-hour trip. They have a longer trip that they serve real food, I believe, and it's like $100 each. And I'm going, that's a little bit more than I want to spend for a train ride. No. Andy, no, I did not get one yet. I sent the old one back. It went to Newegg, which is out in California. They haven't gotten it yet. I had to send it by UPS. Didn't cost me anything. They sent me the return label, and they will have it Monday, this coming Monday. Hopefully they'll get it sorted out quickly and send me out the replacement board. It would be nice to have it. I'm just hoping that I don't have any problems with the replacement board. And I got to thinking about it, and this was, you know, when you buy electronics like that, it's usually sealed in plastic. You know, the box. Like I bought the 1,000-watt power supply right after I bought the motherboard, and that was wrapped in plastic, and it had a like a safety seal on it, you know, so once you broke the seal, they'd know you opened it, you know, so you couldn't turn it back, set it back and say, well, you know, I didn't need it, never opened it, because, you know, obviously you did. But that's commonplace for anything electronic you buy. Now, when I got the motherboard, it was in a box, you know, in its proper box, no seal on it, not wrapped in plastic, and I began to wonder if it wasn't a return to begin with, because they'll do that shit, you know. They'll get something back, they'll look at it, well, it still sort of works, throw it back on the shelf, some other dumbass will get it, and they don't say nothing, well, that's not our problem. It's a bad way of doing business, but a lot of places do this, not just with electronics either. You know, generally if something's brought back, returned, you should always assume there's something wrong with it, even if there isn't. And it should go back to the manufacturer. The store will get credited for it. And, you know, then you don't have to deal with it. But some of these places I think are getting sloppy, and they're figuring, well, you know, Amazon is notorious for that as well. So is Walmart. Walmart will put things back on the shelf even though they're not right, you know. I bought a desk from there some years back. You know, you got to put it together yourself. I get it home, open up the box, there's no screws or anything. The package with all the hardware was missing from it. So I go back to Walmart, I show them my receipt, and I say, you know, there's no hardware in there, you know. Oh, no problem, we'll open up a new box for you. They opened up a box on the shelf, pulled out the hardware, hey, here you go, see you later. They didn't take the box off the shelf, so somebody's going to buy that one at some point, and they're going to have the same problem. Well, there's no hardware in here. That's a shitty way of doing business. But I think a lot of them are doing that now, and it's a problem. So, you know. So I'm thinking that maybe I probably didn't get a brand new board. I mean, it was, you know, it didn't look like it had been used, but that doesn't mean shit either. How would you know? And that's funny because they said in order to be credited for a replacement or a refund, I went for the replacement, everything had to be back in the box. All the documentation, all the packing materials. And I'm thinking, why do they want to do that unless they're going to resell it at some point? I mean, the board is dead, so it doesn't matter. You put power to it, nothing happens. It's just dead, you know, DOA. So, I mean, I'm sure they're going to figure that out, and they're going to have to either send it back to the manufacturer or toss it in the garbage, one or the other. But hopefully they'll give me a brand new one this time that might actually be sealed in plastic, or at the very least have the tamper-proof seal where the box opens. almost everything electronic you buy nowadays, if it's legit, will have one or the other, sometimes both. So I probably should have figured out something was wrong when I got it the first time. And I did get a $40 discount on it. I don't know why. You know, I haven't bought anything from Newegg in 5 years. So it wasn't like I had, points built up or anything. I didn't, as far as I know. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But hopefully I'll have another one in about a week or so. And I'll put it back in here, and I'll tell you what, I'll keep the one that's in there now. I'll keep it safe in case the new one takes the shit again. And if it does, of course, we'll be done with that brand, or at least from Newegg. And that's the thing that sucks too. Now, if I'd have got that at Amazon, as soon as I got the label for it, they'd have shipped out a new one. And they give you like 20 days to return the old one. And of course, if there's nothing wrong with it, they're not going to give you a refund, but most people think are pretty honest about that stuff. Newegg doesn't do that. I wish they did. That's the way it goes. Tom Grassi says, Ray Burleson, Ray, what do you need the buckboard for? I use DC to DC on my 18-volt DC bus line around my layout, and then I can drop them down anywhere I need a lower voltage. I use it, lights, etc. Thomas says he's got a few freight cars for me. Alright, well, send them down. You know my address. Eric says, Big Jim, if you ride the train, you can ask them about those new cars. Yeah, exactly. They obviously ran into some money because they're replacing a lot of their rolling stock. Plus they picked up, well, they're not new, but they picked up some used locos. They got an SD45 tunnel motor. That's new to their lineup. They got that about 5 months ago. I believe they've got another SD45, not a tunnel motor, just a regular one. And I think they wound up getting a couple of GP40s as well. Normally they had the GP38s, so they're picking up stuff. I think they're upgrading. Of course, with the RFK Jr. up in Washington wants to ban high fructose corn syrup in everything that's got it. That means they'll have to replace it with something. And the smart money to bet on would be cane sugar. If that happens, the sugar cane is going to be making massive amounts of money. So, I figure might as well beef up their trains, why not? Let's see. Ray says, thanks, Jim. If they are DC equals DC, that's fine. As long as I know what the input is, so I know which bus to run off of. There you go. Like I said, I think you can run, up to 30 volts in, and then you can run up to 30 volts out in 1 volt increments. So I'll send you the link for it after the show. You can take a look and see what you need. I thought it was a pretty good deal. Thomas says, Jim, the Polar Express model is a high-end model. I wouldn't go that far, but hey, that's what you think, that's fine. Ray says, Tom Grassi, I was thinking of using them for car lighting on a DCC system. If they don't have a bridge rectifier and are only DC to DC, they won't work. I can use the DC-DC ones on the layout for other projects. This is true. I use separate rectifiers on my Amtrak passenger cars. Because I use the buck converter, a rectifier to switch from AC to DC, and also have super capacitors to act as a keep alive so the lights don't flicker. It's a nice little package that I put it together, and it works just fine because I put LED lights along the top, one strip down the whole length of the car, and it lights the car up really nice. Hey, Todd Armstrong, how you doing, Todd? Good to see you here. Hey, GRE 2057, how you doing? Good to see you here too. What railroad are we talking about here with the new locomotives? Well, they're not new. It's the U.S. Sugar Line. They're right behind my house, where they run from Clewiston to Port St. Lucie, I think. And so they must have gotten an influx of money because they bought new rail cars, new rolling stock. They look like flat cars with like a half container on them, and they stacked the two on the back, and then one in the front isn't stacked. I did the video of the other day of what I saw out there. Then they've got what looks like covered hoppers, but they're a little different from the old ones they had. I don't see any place where there's the chutes on the bottom. They must have something there to empty them, because what else would they be? But these are all brand new cars. I mean, they're, brand new. So, and then like I said, they got a couple. They bought used locomotives. They didn't buy any new ones. But they've got, like I said, they got an SD45 tunnel motor. They picked up a used one. And an SD45 dash, I guess be a dash 2. They got that. They got 2 GP40s. So they've just been picking up stuff left and right. Let's see. Tom says, Jim, the 3D parts I made using Meshi are working fine. Couple more to print. Oh, that's cool. I have the documentation here somewhere. Is it this one here? Because there was, when I was using it, yeah, I think this is it here. Yeah, well, I was using Mesh Lab or Mesh Mixer, and I printed this out because it gives you the specifications, like target number of faces you had to change, and I think that was really it, because the target that it usually has is like up in the 50s or all the way up to like 100,000, and you have to reduce it to 24,000 or 242,116 faces in order to simplify the file. So I said I hang on to this because I'd never remember it the other way. But it does work. Let's see where we at here. Hey, Raymond Anthony, 127. Good to see you. As Thomas said, there's a new locomotive coming, and it's ACL number 1504. Not familiar with it, but I'll have to check that out. And Tom says, Ray, car lighting, is that rolling stock or vehicles on the layout? There you go. Tom goes, oops, wrong Ray. Oh yeah, probably Ray Bertelson. And Thomas says the Sugar Line was Atlantic Coast Line. Well, it's the tracks are actually, they were Atlantic Coast Line. And I think CSX bought it because CSX owns it now. And U.S. Sugar leases the line. So they actually share it with CSX. Usually you don't see the CSX trains here unless Sugar's done for, I think, for like a month out of the year. They're closed for the season, and then you'll see CSX run through here. Ray says, okay, I was just looking for a simple board for different projects. My soldering skills suck. Otherwise, I would build them myself. Well, they're cheap enough, so why screw around with it, Like I said, less than $2 a piece. I think they're like $1.10 each. Hell, I could solder them too, but why? you know. Like I said, these are a little bit bigger. The first ones I bought were really tiny. Better look at that over there. The first ones were about half the size of this board. Now, of course, inside a train car, like a passenger car, the smaller the better. These are kind of large for that. But, I might have the link for the first ones I bought, because those were AC to DC too. So, I'll have to look. Let's see, vehicles on the layout. Tom says, Jim, this is meshy.ai. Okay, that's different. I'm using Mesh Lab, and there's another one, Mesh Lab and Mesh Mixer. I'll have to check out the Meshy AI. Might be easier to use, I don't know. Hey, Ray Gigliotti, how you doing? Good to see you. So, yeah, so I want to try and get some of these turnouts finished and operational. Even though the track isn't powered yet, but that I can always do. Hey, Digger Evans, how's it going, Digger? Long time no see, man. Good to see you here. I want to at least get something accomplished here. That's the thing. I'm not getting anything done. I mean, I've started, but nothing's technically finished yet. I'd like to be able to say, all right, this is complete, and then move on to the next aspect of what I'm doing. Sounds like they're all a mess. Well, there's a lot of work here. The thing is, I don't have... I got two things against me. I have other things to do in my life. I can't really dedicate everything to the train room. Wish I could, but I can't. And my physical ability to stand up for any real length of time is deteriorating quickly. I'm actually getting worse and worse. Probably age. So I find, like I said, I could stand for 5 or 10 minutes. I got to sit down for 15. It's just the way it is. There's nothing I can do about it. That's good to hear, Digger. Looks like Digger's been busy. He says, coming along nicely, thanks, setting buildings out now. Cool. And I haven't seen anything on you lately, Digger. Hope you're shooting some video. We'll try and look for it and see what's going on. I mean, it's nice. It's not really hard work what I'm doing, but it'd be nice if I could sit down and do it, but there's no way that can be done. That's the thing. The upper level's too high to sit, and the lower level's too low to stand. and it's even too low to sit, too. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where there's no happy medium. Says, yeah, I'm on with the new layout now. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I want to see it. I'm sure we all do, So, what else was I going to talk about here? I can't remember now. So Derek says, Big Jim Digger got his 2 main line running. Okay, cool. That's another. I got to get my shit together too, because trains are still not running. Technically, the outer main probably does work. It did the last time I checked it, but the inner one does not, or vice versa. I don't remember which now. I'm pretty sure I got dirty track. I really need to go in there and scrub the whole thing. And probably need to scrub the... I have one of those gadgets that you put your engine on and it'll clean the wheels. It sits in there and cleans the wheels. I probably need to do that. I think the last time I did that is maybe 4 years ago. You know, so I got to get cracking on some of this stuff, but like I said, I've been more worried about trying to get things operational. Running the trains didn't seem to be that big of a deal for me, but at some point I've got to get them running, and I know you guys have been, you know, especially James Galton. When you gonna get your trains running? What the fuck? He's right in a way, though. Ray says, don't feel bad, Jim. I have had 11 by 12 plywood with layout lines for a year. Not a lick of track yet. I think things take time, you know, and hey, bad thing is, you know, we're not getting any younger. I mean, we don't get cracking, we'll be dead before it's finished. And that ain't good. So, you know, I'm hoping to be around at least another 20-25 years. But you never know, you know. But still, I'd like to get something accomplished. I want to really start diving into, you know, doing some renovation in some areas. Getting some details in. You know, I started, and like I said, I get hung up on something else, and then I'm not getting anything done. But I will. At some point. Nashville Steve Thomas says, Jim, how long is the polar express chain? Looks like it's probably close to 9 inches. I enlarged it a little bit because it was only like 7. But I got a bigger build plate. And that's like, if it comes out good on that, you'll get a 9-inch model. If it doesn't, then I'll have to try the resin printer. And that's going to be like 4 inches. Just don't have the size of the build plate, so that's kind of where you're at. But I'll let you know. What was I going to say? Lost my train of thought there for a minute. And then I have to start thinking, once again, we're here in property tax season. And I've got to put money together to pay my fucking taxes. So, and I've only got till like May. It'll probably take me that long to, you know, put aside $1,300. So, of course, that means I can't spend on anything else. You know, not really. I can take a few bucks here and there, but I've been itching to go to a train show. Watching Tom, he goes to train shows almost every weekend, and he's starting to make me jealous. And that one up there at the Villages, man, it's probably a good thing I didn't go there. I would have had to have at least $500 to spend. I mean, I was looking at some of the prices, some of the things he was showing. Holy Christ, I could have a field day in that, you know. There were some things that were high priced, but probably worth it. But a lot of the stuff was, you know, they had rolling stock for anywhere from $3 to $10, depending on, you know, how newer it was. And I don't mind changing out couplers and replacing plastic wheels with metal wheel sets. That's no big deal. But I'm just thinking, man, I'd really like to go to one of these shows, you know. So I'm thinking, realistically, I forgot, because I watch the shows, tried to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but I watched the Wednesday show last night, And he was talking about the train show schedule, and I wasn't paying much attention. I think he said the Villages were having another show in February, but I wasn't sure if they were going to have any vendors there or not. So the next time they have a show with vendors, especially if it's after the first of the year, I'm definitely going. Even if I only have a couple $100 to blow, I don't give a shit. Because I want to buy some stuff, man. I haven't. It's been kind of what's the word for it? I can't think of the damn word now. Nothing. It's stagnant. It's everything's stagnant here. I haven't bought anything forever. Like a rolling stock or anything, and I want to get that stuff, man. You can never have enough rolling stock. I don't care what anybody says. And you never know. I might even find a P42. I don't care if it's new or used. It doesn't really matter to me. If the price is right, I'll buy it either way, It doesn't have to be DCC because I'll convert it anyway. But, like I said, I'll be looking for something like that. And there's some buildings I want to get. Lots of stuff that, I don't mind spending a few dollars on. Ray, that's terrible, man. Where did it go? Why didn't it highlight? Oh, there we go. Tom's driving me nuts with the train show vids. I almost want to do a 10-hour drive just for the prices on old stock I'm looking for. I know, it's amazing. I mean, it seems to me, and I could be wrong, but prices are coming down a little bit, and I think it's because, people just don't have the money, or they're not willing to spend crazy money on stuff anymore. And it's not just, I've seen this with a lot of stuff. Trains, computer stuff, household goods. Prices really are starting to come down. The only places they're not coming down is things you absolutely have to have, like food, coffee prices, I guess, are going through the roof again. But because people won't give that shit up as a rule. And you need to, because if you gave it up for a few weeks, trust me, they will drop the price down in a heartbeat. Because, you either sell it or it goes bad sitting on yourself. So, but yeah, I think prices are coming down in different areas. And I think it's only going to keep on coming down because, let's face it, the economy's going to shit, man. So, that's good for us, as poor fuckers that don't want to spend a lot of money, so. Let's see, Tom says, GymMeshy.ai allows me to upload a photo of an image and it takes the photo and creates an STL file. Yeah, I know about that. But didn't you say you had to simplify the file before Tinkercad would accept it? That's where the Mesh Lab comes in. I thought that's what you were referring to. Yeah, I still got to check that out. That sounds pretty cool. Let's see here. So, like I said, I really want to go to a train show. I'm just itching for it. It's been a while. The last train show I went to I went up with Tom and Debbie. Me and my Debbie went with Tom and his Debbie. And that was like 2 fucking years ago, I think. And it's been a long time, And I spent like $200 and some. But I got some stuff that I really wanted and not really anything I need. I don't really need anything, but there's things that I want. So, and sometimes you get really, really good deals at these train shows, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So, Tom's really big on the train shows. Well, he can afford it too, though, because, he technically makes more money than I do. But and that's good. That's great for him. But I wish I had another source of income that I could, divert for trains and whatever. Because I still have I have the expansion to do. That's definitely not happening till after the taxes are paid. The good news is by the time that happens, I should have my 2 air conditioners paid off, my 2 mini splits, and then I'll use the same line of credit to get both sheds. And then the only thing I'll have to actually pull out of pocket will be the wood for the flooring that I have to put in, which is not that expensive. Because I already got 2 of the sheds picked out. I think one was a 4x4 for the helix, and the other one is 8x11, I think, or something like that. Maybe it was 6x8. I don't remember which now, but it wasn't terribly big. It doesn't need to be. But if I can, if it's 6x, I could have benches on both sides. So I could put one side of the benches for my printers and printer related stuff, and the other side could become a workbench. And that's kind of what I'm looking to do. So fingers crossed that I get it done soon. And Thomas says Tom used to work on the Monongahela connecting railroad. I know he was in a lot of things. I don't really know what, but Tom's a pretty smart guy. He's got a lot of knowledge behind him. Tom Grace says, Jim, I take the files from Meshi, put them on my slicer program, and resize the files, and I can put them up on Tinkercad. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, cool. Hey, Russ is rocking on HO trains and stuff. How you doing, Russ? Good to see you here. So like I said, I probably sound like a broken record by now because I got all these big plans and no fucking money to do anything with it. But I have been working behind the scenes to improve my finances a little bit. Now the good news is this may be the last year that I have to pay property taxes. I got to give them a call when I get a chance soon and see if I can get a discount this year, because now that I'm 66, I'm disabled. I've been in this house for a little over 5 years now. I won't get exempted completely, but I should get a discount. But now, of course, if their plan goes through, and we're supposed to vote on this in 26 to abolish property taxes for homesteaded residences, which mine is, then I won't have to pay property tax anymore. And I'll tell you, that'd be a big load off of me. Because that's it's a big chunk of money because I don't get a lot. So I've got my fingers crossed. And when I go to the polls to vote, trust me, I'll be voting against it. Anybody that votes for it to keep the property taxes should probably get the shit kicked out of them for being fucking stupid. But I know a good portion of Florida doesn't like paying property taxes. It's just because you never own your home. I mean, I own my home, but I really don't. If I don't give the government, the state, its blood money, they take my house away. It's bullshit. It ain't right. So it's like, you're going to pay us whether you like it or not. No, that needs to stop. But right now, like I said, this year I'm going to have to pay probably either all of it, possibly part of it. I don't know yet. And it's $1,300. It's not a lot of money, but it is when you don't make a lot. Well, Digger, you would think that would be the case, but believe it or not, there are some dumbasses in this country, especially in this state, that have no problem with paying property taxes. Well, if we don't pay property taxes, our kids won't be able to go to school, or we won't have police, or we won't have fire. Bullshit. What the hell did they do before they had property taxes? Property taxes weren't always a thing. A long time ago they didn't have them, but I think in early 1900s is when they finally came up with them. Prior to that, there's no property tax. You bought your land and that was yours. End of it, you know. So yeah, there are, of course, the politicians are going to try and scare people. Well, if we don't have property tax, we won't be able to give you protection for the police or anything else, and the criminals will, they'll come in and rob you and rape your wife and it's all bullshit. Especially here in Florida, because we're all fucking armed anyway. Come over in my house and try and do something, see what happens for the criminals, So, well, that's what they were talking about. Derek was possibly adding another 3 cents onto the sales tax, which here in Florida, it's, well, at least where I'm at, it's 7 cents on the dollar. 7.5 cents, actually, to be accurate. I don't know where they got the half penny from, but, and that's okay. If it goes up to 12 cents for sales tax, that's fine. I don't buy that much anyway, and food and medicine is tax exempt, so it's really not going to hurt me that much. Like if I do have to buy something, so I pay a little extra for it. But I don't buy enough throughout the year to come anywhere close to what I'm paying in property taxes. So for me, it would be a boon. Now for the wealthy, well, too bad they buy their $10 million yacht. They have to pay 12 cents sales tax on, $10 million. That's a lot of money, but, they can afford it. And they'll probably be the ones against it anyway, because, you don't get rich unless you're tight with your money anyway. So like I said, it's mostly the politicians who want it, because for them, it's free money. And you have to pay it or else. So we'll see, So Derek, you're correct. Sales tax, if you buy more, you pay more. Exactly. And I'm okay with that if they raise that a little bit, as long as they don't get stupid with it. But our governor already said that there was I think between 400 and 800 million per county that they're actually just excess money that they really didn't need. And they're just bending us over because they can. So let's just do away with the property tax. You'll have true ownership of your property. Nobody can throw you off. And that should be the American way, Let's see. Digger says, yeah, scaremongering, of course. Well, that's the way they work things here. Ray Burleson says, oh, by the way, Jim, thanks for the reply to 3R Railroad on Rumble. Yep, that's me. Oh, is it really? I didn't know that. Damn. All right, well, I'm following you now. So, I picked up a lot of followers on my Wise Guy channel on Rumble. And I've watched some of the other guys. There are a lot of gamers. I'm not really into gaming. So even though I follow them, I really don't. But there's the one girl, I can't think of her name, I can't remember her name now, but just something. And she talks political stuff, and I listen to her on occasion. So, see, Digger says sales tax here is called VAT. Yeah, I'm familiar with the VAT tax in England, in the UK. 20% on everything. And even then, that's not terribly bad. I mean, it's not great. But, do you guys have property taxes there? I don't really know much about the UK, but if you don't have property taxes, it's a good trade-off. All right, Andy, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in, and be safe, have fun this weekend, and we'll see you next time. And Russ says, my son moved out 4 months ago, Jim. I'm still moving stuff out of my old train cave. Life, yard work, chores, do-it-yourself projects, medical appointments, etc. seem to get, the same here, man. That's what I'm saying, I wish I had the time to spend here, all day, every day, but I can't, I have a wife that deserves my attention, and I have things around the house that need to be fixed, and I drag my ass on everything anyway, but it's still stuff that needs to be done, you know. Tom says all they need to do is remove property tax from people that are retired, let the young take care. Well, and I have no problem with that either, Tom, although, well, yeah, because their kids are in school, and that's where a lot of the taxes go, but here in Florida, the Florida lottery, when it first came out, they said, well, this is going to take the brunt of the taxes for the schools. And they were supposed to lower the property taxes, which never happened. You know, we got lied to once again. Hey, there's James. Dundas Junction Model Railroad. James, how you doing? Good to see you. Oh, absolutely, Digger. Yeah, we did pay enough in the system when we were working. And retirees should get a break. You know, I haven't had kids in school in 30 years, maybe. Yeah, because my oldest daughter, she's, what, 43 or 44 now? Maybe older, I'm not even sure. Yeah, my youngest boy, he's 29. And, you know, like I said, he dropped out of school early, so what the hell am I paying for? And the schools suck anyway. So let's see, races. My property taxes doubled this year. I now need to go on a payment plan. I am on Social Security and can't do it. 48% goes to the old school system now, and I imagine not. I said it's not right, you know. We shouldn't be paying for some other asshole's kids to begin with. Let them fucking pay for it. It's not right. And like I said, you know, I'm on a fixed income too, so I understand exactly what you're saying. You know, I get, what is it, 19,000, I think, a year. And it's not a lot of money, you know. I mean, I got bills and everything else to pay. I don't have a mortgage because the house is paid for. I still got to buy gas. I got to pay the electric bill, which is outrageous now. I need propane for the gas stove, water bill, internet, you know, food. Hell, my food bill is practically breaking us, man. I mean, we're spending the majority of our money every month on food. It's ridiculous, but you gotta eat, you know. It's just not right, man. But this is where we're at, unfortunately. All lottery money goes in the... Yeah, well, it really does, too, you know. And that's the thing, you know, they just had that big one. What was it, last week or the week before? Almost $2 billion. I think it was $1.8 billion. There's two winners that are going to split that. But why? Give them each $50 million. Take the rest, divvy it up amongst the rest, the lower winners. So that if you maybe got 4 out of 6 numbers right, you'll get $20,000 or $50,000. And it kind of makes it more fair for everybody, you know. And like I said, I don't know how much the government takes out of that. Probably a lot. So if the pot was $1.8 billion, chances are they probably took in maybe $4 billion. And then if you take a lump sum payment, you take a big, you lose almost half of it right off the bat. So let's say each person got $750 million, the winners. If they took a lump sum, they'll only get like $500 million, which is still a shitload of money, but, you know. And that's not right either, you know. It's like, well, wait a minute. Because I don't know if you heard about it. I just recently heard about this. You guys remember Publishers Clearinghouse, right? They always had the big sweepstakes 2 or 3 times a year. You know, $10,000 a month for life, that kind of shit. You know they went bankrupt? I did not know that. Well, of course, all the people that won and took installments from their millions of dollars, they got fucked out of their money. The one guy he wrote a letter to the editor, one of the local newspapers. He says, you know, I won $20 million, but I decided to take the installment plan where I get something like $150,000 a year for, for a life almost. And he says, I got it for a couple of years, and the fuckers went belly up, and I don't get nothing. I mean, and that's why you always take the lump sum, regardless if you lose some or not. Because I wouldn't trust the state or anybody else to not go belly up, and you're screwed out of your money anyway. Yeah. So, James says our property tax is about $5,000 a year. See, that's a lot of fucking money. So mine's $1,300. Of course, I don't live in an exclusive area. I mean, there are places here in Sebring that probably could be $5,000 a month. In Naples, my old house is going for $6,000 a month, or $6,000 a year now for property taxes. I was only paying $1,500 a year, but because it just recently sold for $1.1 million, the tax base went through the fucking roof. And I'm thinking, and that's bullshit too. And I guess there were some things a long time ago where, in some areas, when you bought the house, let's say you bought a $100,000 house and that's what it was actually worth, you only paid taxes on that, not including homestead exemption, whatever. And that was all you paid as long as you owned the house. If you had the house 50 years and you're only paying $200 a year for property tax after your homestead and whatever, that's all you ever paid. But now the prices go up every year because the values go up every year. It should make a difference. You're not benefiting from the value of your house going up. So, my house was, well, I got it for $1 actually because, my dad quitclaimed it to me. But when it was new in 1969, it was $13,000. So in theory, you should only be paying taxes on $13,000, which would be about $100 a year, thereabouts. And that's what it should be forever. But because it keeps going up in price, so did the tax base. It's not right. It's bullshit, Let's see. There says, lottery money goes to the government. Was supposed to reduce our school taxes, which is 75% of the total taxes here. It never lowered anything crooked. Oh, it's the same thing happened here, Derek. All that fucking money the lottery brings in, we were supposed to get massive breaks on our property taxes because of the lottery, because nobody really wanted the lottery in Florida, because Florida's been like an anti-gambling state the whole time I've been here anyway. And so they really had a fight to get the lottery here. The lottery's not that old. I think it finally came in the 80s. They made it legal. But it was based on the promise that was going to lower property taxes. Well, if it lowers property taxes, that's a good deal. We'll go for it. Except that it never happened. If anything, the opposite happened. Property taxes still keep going up. It's a bunch of horse shit. As a rule, I don't play either. I did buy one ticket 2 weeks ago for the $1.8 billion up here. Well, if I'm going to win, I'm going to win on one, or I'm not going to win at all. Well, the funny part, the sad part is I did not get one fucking number right. Not one, not even close. But, it cost me $2, so I didn't give a shit. But, and I think maybe once a month I might buy a lottery ticket. Just because it can't hurt. And it's like I said, it's only $2, so who cares? I probably lose that much every month, so. But I'm not big on gambling, never have been, because I don't like losing anything. To me, money is too hard to come by, and to lose it foolishly just doesn't make sense. Derek said, James, if we had your money, we'd burn ours. I don't think James is as rich as you think he is, but you never know. Russ says, yeah, PCH went tits up. I just heard about it a couple weeks ago. So I guess it was recently. So you said probably about a month ago. It's funny, and I always thought that they would anyway, because the reality was, and I used to, ask myself, well, they sell trinkets basically. useless crap that nobody really needs. And I bought a few things for them over the years, but largely junk, you know. And I'm thinking, how in the fuck can they afford to pay sometimes up to 4 people a year $20,000 or $100,000 a year, or you know, whatever, $1,000,000 a year for life? They're not making enough money to pay that off, you know. And apparently I was correct because, like you said, they went tits up. So, once again, though, like I said, anybody that took the payment plan was stupid, you know. Take the fucking money, doesn't matter how much it is. It's more than what you have. Take it and be happy. Derek said, I live on a pension. You are dreaming. Time to wake up. That's what I said. I don't think you were as rich as everybody wants to believe you are. Derek says property taxes for him are $25,000. You need to move, man. You're in way too much. Where the fuck do you live? Connecticut or one of them fucking places? That's where taxes are crazy. That's nuts. Or California, maybe. Yeah, I wouldn't live there either. For the same reason. Derek said, James, if you sold all your TH&B stuff, you would be a millionaire. Yeah, you never know. You got a lot of trades there, man. Was it 2 of everything? James said, Derek, I want more. Well, we all want more. Derek said, James, me too, just teasing you. Ah, well. Ray says, if I ever win the big one, just pay me in cash and I'll only have to pay taxes once. And it won't be kept in the bank. I'll have a safe in the woods. That's well guarded. There you go. Oh, you're in New York, Derek? Yeah, fuck New York, man. That place is a shithole. I was up there for a short time right after I had my stroke. And it was kind of a nice area. I was in upstate. I wasn't in the city. But it's still just so damn expensive, you know. So we used to go over to Jersey to get gas because gasoline for the car was cheaper than New York was. You know, and it was only like 15 miles to cross over into Jersey, so it was no big deal. Yeah, I'm sure they're through the fucking roof, Tom. Yeah, like I said, Jersey sucks. I couldn't live there. I couldn't afford to live there. You know, sometimes I get a little homesick, you know, because you know it's been forever since you know I lived in Jersey. But I thought, boy, wouldn't it be cool to still be up there? You know, snow and fall and you know 4 seasons and the house we had a great house up there. It was 2-story, which I'd have to put in one of those little elevator thingies, you know, stair climber or whatever the fuck they're called, because I can't really climb stairs that well. But still, I mean, it was a big house. It was nice, and I kind of miss it, you know. But yeah, I couldn't afford the taxes up there, you know. I looked at our old house, and my dad sold it for like, this was back in '69. He couldn't have got much for it. He probably got $10,000 for it, maybe $11,000, because he still took out a mortgage on the house down here, which was only $13,000. But just recently, I guess it was sold, I think a year or so ago, and they got $365 for it. You know, and of course it's changed a little bit since I lived there. Still a nice place though. James says, if I stay away from politics, then I will do okay. Yeah, I hear you there, man. Jim, let's run some trades. I know, I'm working on it, man. I was talking about it before you got here. I got my buck converters. They came in today. I got 10 of them. And that's for the servos to reduce the voltage for the turnouts up on the second level. And I've got my servo testers, which I could use, and I've got variable resistors and potentiometers. I could use those as well. So the next week coming up, I'll be working on that, and I'm going to try and video as much of it as I can, so I'll have something to show on next week's show. But there's still a lot of work to be done to get the trains running, and I don't know when that's going to happen. I remember I think I said 2 weeks ago, and I lied, obviously. So soon, it'll be running soon. Upstate is beautiful. Upstate is where I'm on. Long Island is beautiful. It's just the city. Well, yeah, the city's fucked up for sure. But even upstate, it's still expensive. You know, nothing's cheap. I mean, it's ridiculous. New York as a whole is just a very expensive state, and you know you can't have a gun there, any of that shit. You know, it's like, yeah, fuck that. You know. And besides, you gotta remember that New York will be the first place that gets nuked if the shit ever hits the fan. And that you can almost bank on. So, not the place you want to be living in. Let's see. Remember, this is a train channel. Really? Are you sure? Well, you came in late, because I was talking about trains the whole time until you got here, pretty much. James, he's working on the road, so it's not running right now. Yeah, exactly. I'm working on it, though. Russ says, gas tax, road tax, car registration fees here, all high, and Department of Transportation wants more. Voters told them to go fuck themselves, basically. So far, legislature still does not care. Well, no, and they never will, you know. That's another problem I got here, too. Now, I got the Grand Marquis, the Mercury Grand Marquis, a big car, heavy, you know, 4 doors. I got the little Ford Ranger, and you would think that if they go by weight length, the Ranger should be cheaper for the tag than the Mercury. Well, they're both the same fucking price. I just replaced them because, you know, it's my birth month, and it was $94 and change for both the tags. And it's like, well, that ain't right. You know, how come the truck is, it used to be, you know, if you had a smaller vehicle, you paid a lot less for the tag than you did for the big one. So I think they're just bending us over wherever they can, you know. And this is a big problem no matter where you go, I guess. You know, they know you don't, they got you by the short hairs, because what are you going to do? You want to drive your car? You got to pay for the tag, you know. You want to live in your house? You got to pay the property taxes. They know they got you bent over, and there ain't a fucking thing you can do about it. I mean, not really. Ray says, Thomas, I understand. I love Cali, but we'll never go back. You know, I guess a long time ago it was a really nice place, and it was inexpensive, and back before the Democrats and the fucking idiots took it over, but I wouldn't go there. You couldn't pay me enough to go there. James says, my aunt and uncle lived on Long Island. I have relatives on Long Island. They're still there. I haven't seen them in probably 30 some years or longer. But I remember when I was a kid, we used to go over and visit every now and then. It was a quaint little neighborhood. It was nice, you know. Tom says, Jim, New Jersey has the highest property tax in the country, more than New York, more than California. That I believe, and I've heard that elsewhere too, so I'm not surprised. That's because, you know, you got, basically your fucking governor's a fucking rat bastard communist fucking Democrat, so you can't be too surprised when you got that going on. James said, Derek, I have a small wooden chest built in Long Island, New York City. Oh, cool. I couldn't tell you. I don't remember, Derek. It was so long ago. I mean, literally, I was a kid. I was like 8 years old. Last time I think we seen 8 or 9. Um, they're still there somewhere. No, but no, I couldn't tell you where. I don't remember. I said I got relatives in Long Island, all over New Jersey. There's like 4 places in Jersey where I have relatives. Um, we don't have any relatives down here, except for my daughter. My dad's cousin lived in Fort Myers. He's probably dead by now because he was fairly old back in the day. And I didn't like him too much anyway. He was an asshole. He was the one who told me I'd never make anything of myself if I quit school. And so we your boys did 4 years of college, and they're bagging groceries at the fucking, fucking grocery store. So don't you think you ought to fucking think twice about talking to me about it? That shut him right the fuck up too, let me tell you. Yeah. Jim is not behind in the chat. No, I'm doing pretty good today. It's not always that way, but every now and then I get lucky. So there's knew a guy named Tedesco in high school. Well, there's a lot of Tedescos. It's not an unusual name, not really. A lot of them are up in the Northeast, but there's a few that are out west and whatever. But as far as my dad once told me that I had a rich aunt in California. She made her money on oil somehow, but I never met her. I don't remember. He never gave me her name or anything. He just says, "Yeah, you have an aunt in California." That was back when I was like 10 years old. I have no idea who the fuck it is though. So yeah, it is what it is. Unfortunately, there's nobody out there that can leave me any money. That's the problem. If I had a rich uncle or cousin or something that, kicked off and left me $1 million or something like that, that'd be great, but it ain't gonna happen. My Aunt Linda, she passed away, I think in 2008, somewhere around there. She was a little bit younger than my dad, but she made it to 90. She worked for Atlas Toy Company in New Jersey. And she was a thief and a half. She would steal all kinds of shit from them, She never admitted to it, but we figured she couldn't have been buying this stuff because she would have trains and slot cars and shit. And anytime any one of us in the family that had a birthday or Christmas, that's what we got, Every Christmas she'd give me a Atlas HO racing set, cars, because I really wasn't too much into trains at that point. But she had a collection in her basement of all Lionel and Atlas trains, O scale. By today's money, it was probably over $100,000 worth. Remember, it's older stuff, but still new in the box, It was supposed to go to me, because I remember her telling me as a kid, she says, when I die, you're going to get all my model trains. I said, that's cool. I'm really into that. And then when she died, I didn't get shit because my fucking worthless family stole everything and sold it and, enriched themselves like most people do. But I would have had to go up there with a U-Haul to get it all. I mean, I would have done it. It would have been worth it because, like I said, maybe it would probably even weigh more than $100,000. She had everything, track, transformers, probably just about every rail car they made, locomotives, both steam and diesel. I mean, she had all this stuff, and I didn't get none of it. I'm still pissed off about that, but but unfortunately that's the way it usually works when when I was living in Bonita years ago. There was a big house across the street from me, and it was like it was a combination nursing home, private residence. So the guy who owned the house, he'd put multiple bedrooms in there, and he had these old people that would come in and live there, and he sort of took care of them. You know, it was like a nursing home. Well, he finally kicked off, and everybody moved out because, you know, they didn't know what else to do. So the family were out there one morning, and I happened to be outside, and these fuckers were in the garage, literally ready to throw fists. They were arguing about who was going to get what. So I got kind of pissed off. I went over there and I said, you know, I said, I didn't know I assume it's your dad. I didn't know him that well. But you know what? He worked for everything he has in this house. You don't have claim to fucking nothing. And you're fighting over it like it's yours. You know, the fuck is wrong with you people? Divvy it up equally, you know, and deal with it. And I walked away, and like, fuck you, who the hell are you, you know? Hey, Floyd, how's it going? Good to see you here. And it's bullshit, but that happens more often than not, you know? I don't care how tight a family is, when there's a will, there'll be a war. Except for when my dad passed, my dad basically left everything to me, you know. And I said, well, that wouldn't be right. I said, you know, so I called my brother and my sister, and I said, you know, what do you guys want? I said, I already got the house and the car, so anything else you guys want, you let me know. I'll get it to you, you know, or you can come down and pick it up, whatever. And they were like, oh, I don't know. You got a couple of keepsakes. And I mean, they really didn't want anything, you know. But I gave my brother, it was a plaque my dad got from the church. It was pretty big. Had his picture on it and a bunch of newspaper clippings. It was an honor, him being a what do you call it, an usher, because he was an usher in the church for like 30 years, you know. He wanted that, and so I got that to him. And my sister, she got a lot of photographs and stuff. I said, anything you guys want, you let me know. It's yours, you know. But we weren't fighting over anything, you know. Now, there was money involved, of course. He had $60-some thousand that we divvied up 3 ways equally. We each got 13 and change, you know, and everybody was happy as shit, you know. Nobody tried to get more or think that they were better than anybody else, you know. So our family was but we're really tight, you know. But a lot of families, man, I do. And the will comes out, everybody's, like my ex-wife, when her dad passed, that was a clusterfuck. My ex got nothing. She was promised in the will to get some jewelry and other things. She didn't get nothing. The rest of the family took it all. I said, that's too bad that happened, you know, but what are you going to do? Yeah, Russ says, we save a lot on gas with a hybrid car, but the registration fees are higher than my truck because they're getting less gas. Text me, yeah, I know. And you should have saw that coming, Russ, sorry. That's another reason why I didn't want an electric car, because I figured, you know what, and they're doing it. If you're a straight up rechargeable electric, now they want to charge you per mile because they're not collecting gas tax. Registration is double, insurance is double, you know. Even your tires on your car, they're special because they got to handle the extra weight. You can't put regular car tires on. You got to get special tires of probably like an 8-ply or something. It costs you 10 times more. But people never see it. Oh, it's going to be cheap on gas. Well, not really. What you save here, they're going to bend you over here. That's an important lesson for anybody that's thinking about doing that. Let's see. Money is the root of all evil. Actually, that's incorrect, Daryl. The actual saying in the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. Money in and of itself is not evil. It's the love of it that is. So when you're willing to sacrifice your family members or your friends or even your enemies to get the money, that's a problem. But you know, without money, how would you live without money? I mean, it's next to impossible. Hey, ELW Trains, Eddie, how's it going, Ed? Good to see you here. Stop by to say hey. Well, hey, man. Good to see you. Right, he says, what gets me is they're stripping farmland and building HOA gated communities. We don't want them out here in the country. I moved to the country for a reason. I like people, but not neighbors. Well, that's another thing. Here in Florida, they're talking about, they're having so many problems with the HOAs that they want to ban them in Florida. I would be 100% for that. I would never move in. I almost bought they were park model trailers, basically. Fully furnished, brand new. It was a brand new development, and I could have got in there for like $21,000. They would have financed it and everything, but it's fully furnished, beautiful places, but they're still trailers, but they were nice. Until I found out they were talking, they said, "Well, we're going to put a gated community in. It's going to be a gated community down the road, HOA." I said, "No. That's all right. I'm done. I'm out of here." And I walked away from it. It never actually did become an HOA, but the fact that they were even kicking it around was enough for me to turn around and walk the other way. There ain't no fucking way nobody's going to tell me what I can drive, what color I could paint my fucking house, what plants I could have in my yard, or how high my grass has to be maintained. Fuck you. You want that shit? Do it yourself. I'll watch. But money will buy you model trains. Yes, and a lot of them if you have enough money. I have no problem with money. Like I said, I don't have a love of money, which is probably why I'm not rich. But because I don't have the temperament for it. I'm not willing to screw people over or cheat people to get rich. I'm just not willing to do it, And that's the problem. And unfortunately, the truth of it is, the super wealthy out there fucked over people to get that way. You have to, because you can't do it honestly. Not really. Somewhere along the line, somebody got ripped off. And Derek says after they get most people to drive electric cars, they will start. Of course they will. And I predicted this right before the whole shit came out. I said, I'm telling you, we're going to get bent over on this shit. Same reason they want to do away with propane in the houses. Because if everything's on a smart meter, it means they can shut it off. They control it. They can't shut your gas off. You just go back out there and turn it back on. But with the smart meters on your house, they can actually shut off your electricity, certain aspects of it, or all of it, at will, and there ain't a fucking thing you can do about it. Before they had the manual meters in there, they would have had to come and physically remove them. But now with the smart one, push of a button, That's what I'm saying. It's just you gotta be very leery about anything the government wants to do. Because somewhere along the line, you're going to get bent over. James says, my driving will probably stop in 7 years. Well, maybe. I was talking about that not that long ago with my wife, and I said, I don't know when that time will come, but when it does, I won't really have a problem with it. My dad drove until he was 86 or 87, but he started to get Alzheimer's, and of course, he said when he went to go to the grocery store a mile down the road, wound up in Miami, 115 miles away, and then, turned around, overshot the house, and wound up going another 130 miles north. I mean, he was literally gone the whole day. He couldn't remember how to get home, And that was the time to, take the car away from him. So I'm hoping I'll be a little bit more willing to stop driving when the time comes. But it's going to have to be my choice, so we'll see. HOA means they have a say in how you. Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's basically you're under the thumb. And I don't know about other places, but here in Florida, I remember we used to paint condos in the richer sections of towns, like Port Royal, Moorings, Royal Harbor. And these are like, $1 million units, condos. And every condo there would be a book somewhere prominently displayed in the condo. Because we ran into them, And I remember looking through them and was like, holy shit. Like a gazillion rules that you have to follow, There was one that was so bad that if you wanted to have your car worked on, you had to go to the mechanic they said to go to. You couldn't take your car to your mechanic, you had to go to their mechanic. And I'm like, fuck you. And it's ridiculous, Like I said, me and HOAs would never get along. I'd wind up having a problem. Jim, HOAs will tell you when you can take a shit or piss in your house. Well, that's true. To some degree. I mean, it's not that far-fetched. Like I said, I've seen places where you had to have specific colors on the outside of your house. Your mailbox had to be a specific color and design. Sometimes I like a bigger mailbox because I get bigger packages. And that's not allowed in most HOAs. Everything has to be the same, Fuck you. When I worked at the golf course, that was all basically HOA. And it was an older guy. He was probably in his mid-60s, and he drove a Harley, And one Christmas, he took the Harley, parked it out in the front yard, and put a inflatable Santa Claus on it, for Christmas. He got popped for that. They gave him a $50 fine and told him he can't have that in the yard. He's like, but it's a Christmas decoration. Oh, but it's against the rules. You can't have that. Next fucking day, he put the house up for sale, and as soon as he sold it, he moved the fuck out. I didn't blame him, That's fucking crazy. So they can't turn gas off if no one's there to turn it off. That's true. Tom says they are raising the electric bills because of all the electric cars and the bikes. Well, of that and everything else too. I mean, like I said, because they can, And I talked about this once before, not here. I think it was on the Wise Guy. When I worked at the golf course, this sales rep came in and he wanted us to convert all our gas equipment to propane, LP, which is not a bad idea, but I saw through it. And, I got talking about it and said, well, it was going to cost like $4,000 for each piece of equipment to be converted over, And of course, there was handling issues. Do we really want these dumbass Mexicans handling propane canisters? They wind up blowing themselves up, probably. So I said, so if we were to do this, because it would have cost us like $500,000 to convert, almost $1.5 million worth of equipment to propane. And it'd be good for the equipment because propane burns cleaner. You don't have the mechanical problems associated with gasoline. But I asked him, I says, well, what are the prices for propane now per pound? And it was pretty cheap back then. It was like 65 or 68 cents a pound. I said, so can we get a contract that locks it in for, say, the next 20 years? Oh, no, you can't do that. All right, how about the next 10 years? Not I want to do that either. How about the next year? No, can't do that. He says the prices fluctuate. So basically, if you got everybody, all the golf courses, to convert over to propane, you could quadruple the price of propane, and we'd either pay it or we're shit out of luck. We'd be out of money. Well, he says, I wouldn't look at it quite that way. I said, but it's the truth. They said, well, because of that, because you won't give us any kind of a contract on a price freeze for, say, the next 20 years, Amber alert. For the next 20 years, I can't in good conscience go along with it, so I'm going to recommend to my boss in the company that we do not do this. He got all pissed off and stormed out of the building,
County, kidnapped child, https
So I went back to my boss. Says, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Well, the problem is if everybody converts over, and this is all WCI. We had like 10 courses in the state of Florida, so it actually would have been a lot more money than what I originally quoted. But if all 10 courses converted over, because it would be a company-wide transition, they would ultimately they'd bend us over on the price of propane on LP, and they wouldn't give us a locked-in contract for any length of time." So I said, "Well, we can't do it then, because I think basically what would happen is if we all converted over, they could quadruple or quintuple or whatever. They can make the price whatever they want. We'd either pay it or we're screwed." He says, "I never thought about that, but that makes sense." I said, "Well, of course it does." I said, "I've seen it happen with other things in other areas. You never put yourself in a position where you're at the mercy of whatever's being sold to you." So we didn't get it, and the same thing happened with diesel. Remember, diesel used to be really cheap, like a third the price of gasoline, and all of a sudden they started putting diesels in, light trucks and some cars, and it became a thing because everybody said, "Oh, diesel's cheaper. We'll just put diesel engines in our cars and we'll save a ton of money." Yeah, look where diesel is now. Same thing happened. They said, "Well, all these people buying diesel, we got to bend them over." And that's exactly what they did. And James, they're looking into changing the rules after 80 years old. Yeah, I've heard that. The train done? No, it's going to be a while. I think it was like a 7-hour. It's not even close to being done. It's still printing the base. We haven't even gotten to the train part yet. E-bikes are a fire hazard. Not a lot of. Yeah, I've heard that too. They're even talking about banning them in the states. I think it's California's banning them altogether. You're not allowed to have one. Once again, because they're losing revenue. Well, at the end of the day, it's all about this, man. Condos and townhouses were the beginning of the HOAs. Yeah, that's true. Like I said, because people thought, well, because most people go into condos so they don't have to deal with shit. No more mowing your lawn or tending to the garden or your grass or anything else. Hey, you just move in the place and everything's taken care of for you. Except that, you get the condo Nazis, and I've met them. They're in every one of them. And they'll try and dictate every fucking aspect of your life, I lived in one briefly with a girlfriend at the time, and I moved in with her. And I used to get busted all the time. My car was too loud. $50 fine. I said, "Well, I'm not fucking doing anything. That's not that damn loud. I have a good exhaust system on it. It's just, it's a beefed up car. Deal with it." I only got one fine. I go, "You fine me again, somebody gonna get some fucking broken legs. I don't give a shit." Then they got us for having her daughters. They put their bikes in the back one eye rather than leaving them outside, because you weren't really allowed to have anything outside. Well, you weren't allowed to have bicycles on the one eye. You're only allowed to have a table, up to 4 chairs, and a plant or 2. Who the fuck comes up with these rules? Another $50 fine, And you couldn't have pets, But yet some of the people on the board, they had goldfish and stuff like that, but we weren't allowed to have anything. Because, my girlfriend's daughter, she wanted to have, well, can we get some goldfish, Nope, couldn't have them. Couldn't have anything. So the next year, I was there for about a year and a half. So the next year, I actually ran to be a board member, and I won. I got honor. I wasn't the president or anything, but I was a board member. And boy, did I fuck with them people every chance I got. I was handing out $50 fines left and right. You know, you can't have pets in your apartment. Remember, we couldn't have them. You can't have them either. $50 fine. Here you go. You know. Oh, you got too many plants in your one eye. $50 fine. Here you go. You know. It was ridiculous, but I figured you want to fuck with me. That's fine. I'll fuck with you, right? Thomas says, James, I seen an e-bike blow up. Yeah, they do actually. They catch fire a lot too because of the lithium batteries. Raymond says HOA is a form of slavery. In a way, it is, because they're basically dictating what you can and can't do with your personal life. So in reality, I mean, I'm the kind of guy that I wait till the middle of the night, fucking wait for him to go out for a walk and fucking jump him, beat the dog shit out of him, and then maybe go see him the next day and go, how you doing these days? Because they wouldn't know who I was because they do it in the dark. HOAs are run by a bunch of Karens. Yes, they are, Tom. That's a good one, right? HOA stands for how open is your ass. It's gotta be pretty open though to put up with that crap. Yeah, me too, Floyd. Like I said, and there's a lot of different reasons, but mostly mine. I mean, first off, they're expensive. Now, supposedly, and I don't know how true it, because I'm getting to the point where I don't hardly believe anything on the internet anymore. But YouTube had a video of a car. Tesla's coming out with a new one, a Model 2, I think it is, and it's supposed to be $32,000. Which ain't bad, But still, you're going to have to replace them batteries at some point. If you get in the water, forget it, They just had a dad and his two sons burnt alive in a Tesla. They couldn't get them out of the car. The fucking doors wouldn't unlock or nothing. Apparently the glass is really strong in them things, and unfortunately the three of them, they died in the fire, Fuck that shit, man, And why does the government even let them do that? Everything is, fly-by-wire on a Tesla. There's no mechanical connections to anything. So the door locks and the door handles are all electric. There's no linkage. How can that even be allowed? And why shouldn't it shouldn't be allowed? If you can't get in and out of the fucking car, you got problems. Yeah, Floyd, you're right. Look what happened when the seawater floods in Florida. Storms to electrical vehicles, they catch fire. Well, and then look at the boats. How many ships sank already? That one ship recently that had, what did they say, 300 and some cars on it, they're all electric. One caught fire, and next thing you know, the fucking boat sank. Not good. Not sure where you live, Floyd, but if they salt the road, stay with a gas vehicle. Oh, absolutely. James says, Floyd, my GoPro battery almost caught on fire. Any lithium can, I remember years ago, some of the cell phones, man, that thing would burn your hands, they would get so hot. And, they had a problem with some of them would actually catch fire. That's some scary shit, Derek says, Amber Alert, missing James Dundee, or James Dundas of Dundas Street in Dundas Town. Has anyone seen James? Oh, that's terrible. He ran away looking for a train. I guess they're messing with you today, James. James, they pulled over an electric car for being too loud. That seems a little ridiculous. And all the money made from the fines goes toward their lavish lifestyle. That's true. That Tom said, Jim's, when I was going to work one day, I drive on 3 interstate highways, and I was stopped on all 3 for 3 Tesla car fires there for hours. Wow. Not surprising, though. Oh, your heart monitor is still on yet? Yeah. He says it comes off tomorrow morning. Cool. Hopefully we'll have some good news for you. Yeah, like I said, I'm kind of a very private individual. Like, this morning, I get a phone call from my insurance company, Humana, and she goes, "Well, we'd like to set up a wellness check for you. When would be convenient for you?" I said, "Well, wait a minute here." I said, "What are we talking about?" I says, "Is this something that my doctor does?" "Oh, no, we do it ourselves." "So how does that work?" She said, "Well, we come to your house and talk to you and, see how you're doing." I said, "Nah, I don't think so." "Well, why not?" I said, "Because I think that's very invasive. And my house is none of your fucking business, So I says, "I'm going to pass on that." She says, "Well, if that's what you want to do." And she hung up on me. Going, I'm talking to my wife, and I says, as the problem, and I got nothing to hide, My house is set up for my disability. I have safety bars in the bathrooms and the shower and all that, but, and that's for my benefit. My deal to put it in. But, they have no reason. I mean, they're going to come in there and basically pick my house apart. And if they get a bone up their ass, they can say, "Well, you're not safe living here. You're going to have to go in a nursing home." And I'd have no choice. Well, I would, because I would just shoot them. But, I won't be going to nursing home. I might be going to prison. But you'll be going straight to hell where you belong, And as I said, I don't like that shit. And my insurance company is very bad for that stuff, Like, they've been up my ass to get my eyes checked, Like, literally about 2 or 3 times a month. "Have you made an appointment with your eye doctor yet to get your diabetic eye exam?" And I'm going, "No, because I don't need one." When I need one, I'll make an appointment. And it'll be up to me. And they just can't get it through their heads. They even lied to us. "Yeah, I got it done. Don't worry about it." Okay. And then next month, "Did you get your eye exam?" Yeah. Maybe I paid cash out of pocket for it. The fuck you people bothering me for, But it just pisses me off. And that HOAs are the same thing, These are people that are trying to get in your business, dictate what you think, what you do, how you act. Fuck you. None of your business, Terry wants to know if you have to mail it back. Oh, you just drop it off of the Dropbox. Oh, that's cool. He's getting an echocardiogram on Monday. I was supposed to get one. The new cardiologist ordered one. I was all ready to take it. And they said, "Oh, by the way, it's $100 copay." And I'm going, "I'm not doing that." I says, "How come my insurance ain't covered?" "Oh, your insurance is covering it, but you still got to pay us $100. So it turns out they're not getting the extra 100 from the insurance company. They're trying to get it from me. Even though technically, according to my insurance company, I only have to pay a $10 copay. Which I have no issue with that, but so I called them back. I said, "Well, I can't do it. I can't afford $100. Sorry." "All right, well, it's a really important test." I said, "Yeah, not really, And the reason I say it is because I had a cardiologist many years ago in Naples, and we were talking about this one day, and I said, "I don't understand." I said, "I got echocardiogram, did a stress test, did all these fucking tests. 2 months later, I have a fucking heart attack." even though they told me I'm in perfect health. He says, well, unfortunately, we can't tell anything by those tests. The only way we can see if you have clogged arteries is to go in there and actually look. And so then why do you do the test? Well, because we have to. No, you don't have to do anything, you know. And so, echocardiograms, well, I don't know what it is. I know you don't pay for anything in Canada, but without the insurance here, it's about $4,000. Unfortunately, the insurance company wanted to give them $400, so they're trying to get an extra $100 off of me, you know, which is bullshit. So I went ahead and I talked to my primary guy. I says, "Can you see about getting me one through, you know, you? And I should only have to pay $10 copay." He says, "All right, I'll put the order in." So I get a call from them the other day, and I called them back yesterday. And I said, "Oh, you know, I want to make sure there's no big copay." I said, "How much is it?" "Oh, it's $100." "No, can't do it. Don't have the money." "Well, it's your life." And yeah, it is. And, you know, I'm not going to waste my money. I said, "That's half a month's worth. Actually, it's a week worth of food. So I can either go hungry or give you the money that you don't need." I think I'll just go ahead and buy food. So, but like I said, the doctor said, you know, this is a high-end cardiologist at the time. Well, I think he still is in his own mind anyway. But he said, "Oh yeah, none of those tests are valid. They don't prove nothing." He said they're only as good as the people who read them anyway. And most people that read them aren't doctors. So they're not that good either. Because, I mean, I remember I was taking all that shit. They said, "Oh, you know, your arteries are fine. There's no clogged arteries or nothing. Your arteries are free and clear. They're perfect." And I'm thinking, well, that's a good thing. Like I said, 2 months later, I have a fucking heart attack. You know, they go in there with the catheterization, and they said, "Well, we had to, you know, put in a stent because you had a clogged artery." Well, why didn't the fucking ultrasound see that? You know. That's why I said I don't trust doctors. They're all about the money when you get down to it. And they generally don't fix anything until it becomes a problem. So I just got to the point where I decide what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. The same doctor wanted to order a stress test for me. No, I don't do stress tests. Why not? I said, because it doesn't make sense. I'm old. I'm wore out. If you take a car that's old and wore out and run the shit out of it, what happens? You'll blow the fucking motor up. You know, almost every time, guaranteed. That's what a stress test does to your heart. We're not going there. Okay. You know, like I said, I don't fuck around, man. I just, you know, tell them like it is. Thomas says, "Jim, the Tesla vehicles are junk." I don't know if they're junk or not, but they're not. They've got some serious design flaws in them. I would never have one. There's no way in hell. Those spam risk callers are pissing me off. Yeah, I hear that. And James says Mark will be at M&M Rails Live at 8 tonight. That's about now. All right, well, we'll see you later then, James. Have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in. Derek says, "Thomas, they're calling to sell you spikes." Thomas says, "No, I ignore them. He's too young anyway." But when you get older, though, you'll find out that, you know, they do the same thing to my wife now that she's 65. You know, the doctors are calling her, the insurance goes, "Oh, you got to get this and that." No, you don't need to do any of that shit. You know, if there's something wrong with you, you will know it, and then you go see the doctor for whatever's ailing you. All they're doing is fishing. You know, eating up the money. It's going to cause your rates to go up. You know, you're going to be co-paid that you're going to have to pay it. You don't have a lot of money anyway. It's bullshit. All right, Floyd. Well, have a good one, man. Thanks for popping in, and We'll see y'all later, man. Be safe. Have fun this weekend. We'll see you next week. Yeah, so like I said, I have an attitude when it comes to that shit anyway. Like I said, I don't really like doctors to begin with. You know. And I said the same cardiologist I was talking to, this was years ago, but I said, so roughly every 25 years, men, for example, I don't know about women, but men are probably going to start having some clogging in their arteries. He says, yeah, that's pretty accurate. So he says, wouldn't it make sense then that every 25 years we'd go in the hospital, get catheterization, clean the arteries, put in a stent or whatever if you need it, and you would prevent heart attacks. Heart attacks would become almost non-existent. Oh yeah, but they'll never let us do that because, you know, there's no money in that. So basically, you know, let's only have a fucking heart attack, or even possibly die. Get whatever you can off them before they die, and that's okay. And he says, well, I know it sounds bad, but that's kind of the way it works. I go, well, that's bullshit, you know. Jimmy, you want to do a short on the 3D printed Polar Express? I can, you know. My numbers are starting to come up a little bit. I was at 498 for a minute there. And then I went down to 492 for subs. I'm thinking, what the fuck? Now I think I'm at 496 now. It seems like if I do a couple of shorts or a video or two, it jacks back up. So I just like to hit 500 and be done with it. But I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I probably will. Like I said, a lot of the stuff here I could be doing shorts on, but I'd rather save it for the live stream so you guys can see something firsthand, and then maybe afterwards I'll make a short out of it. Yeah, 496 sounds right, Derek. Like I say, it dropped down to 492 for a bit there, and I'm thinking, how the fuck did I lose, you know, all those fucking subs? I don't know what the hell's going on. It's a little fucked up. That's YouTube for you, you know, what can you say? So, I'm also looking at another power supply too. I've got this one here. Let me see if I can grab it. Well, probably be hard to fucking bring it over here. It's from China. I bought it a few years ago as not to be for the trains, but this is like a project power supply. It does, I think it's 3 to 30 volts, up to 5 amps. So I'm thinking, well, I can run 14 volts with 5 amps to power my Digitrax system, because the one I had that belonged to it, it died. And it's not the problem. I don't think it's giving me constant voltage, which may be giving me problems on my layout. So I'm thinking about buying another power supply. I was looking on Amazon. They have some nice deals out there. They're not cheap. I mean, this one was cheap. I think I paid like $15 for it. We're looking at things like in the $60, $70, $80 range. But it's got to be at least 15 amp, or 5 amp rather, and at least 14 volts. So I did find one. I think it would go up to 30 volts and up to 15 amps. And it's regulated, so it wouldn't fluctuate. It was $70, but I'm thinking, you know, that might be the way to go. So I don't know when. Maybe next month I'll pick it up, because this one just doesn't seem to be doing a great job, and I think it's causing problems on layout with the you know, trains running. But because you really need to have a good steady power supply for your DCC setup. Especially now that I'm adding a bus line on the second level, which will be feeding off the same thing. So that's going to drain it even more. So I think that's what I'm going to wind up doing. Like I said, I was looking at it. It's a little pricey, but sometimes you just got to spend the money, you know. Let's see what Thomas say there. I'm at 545 now and finally got over 1,500 hours for the last 365 days. That's cool. I watched another one of your videos yesterday, I think it was. The day before, I don't remember. But I'm getting more in the feed now. So I try and watch what I can. That should help your watch hours a little bit. If I remember, you were at 545. I'm thinking, damn, he's doing pretty good. And Thomas Jim, I'm going to send you more freight cars. I have too much. There's no such thing as too much, man. But I'll take them, you know. He says, I'm downsizing. You're downsizing? What the hell? I'm supposed to downsize. You're supposed to upsize. But hey, it doesn't matter. But that's why I want to go to the train show too, because I want to buy more rolling stock. I think the last time I looked, I had, it was like 143 rail cars, rolling stock, and I think I've got 6 or 7 locomotives. My locos are in bad shape anyway. I got to go through them all. I need wheels cleaned, and at some point I'm going to wind up changing out the decoder boards. So I know, Russ, isn't that kind of weird to say that? Too much? I don't get it. Well, I know you're doing O scale. So that's another thing too. You know, you got to pick a scale and stick with that too. I mean, there are a lot of guys that have multiple scales on their layouts. Somebody even suggested to me I should put an N scale, like on the very back of it, and perspective-wise, it would look okay. But I don't want to do it. You know, as I started out with N scale many years ago. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll have to show it again. But I still have pictures. I think some video of my N scale layout. It was small, but I had so many problems with the N scale. I mean, it's too small. Really couldn't work on them. I sold everything and I went to HO, which is what I originally had many years ago when I was a young man. So I'm going to stick with that. I would love to do O scale, but I don't have enough room for O scale, and I don't have enough money either. So, you know. And Thomas says, I am all O scale. Yeah, I know. Well, if you can afford it, that's cool. But, I mean, to do what I want to do, it's more money than I can come up with to do O scale. You know, my wife has O scale. Just a small oval, you know. Trying to talk her into doing a layout. I haven't had much success with that yet, but I think, you know, because like that Villages train show that Tom was just at, they had a lot of O-scale stuff there that was relatively inexpensive. You know, you guys saw some passenger cars for $25 each, which that ain't bad, you know, for O-scale. They use stuff, but who cares, you know. And you know, like I said, I'd like to get her some, you know, set her up maybe on a 4x8 sheet of plywood, build a nice table in her spare room there, and you know, she'd have fun with it. I mean, I don't know, maybe she'll change her mind. Her big problem now is she's having a lot of problems with her sight. She's got to get her cataracts fixed, and she's kind of dragging her ass on that. So, you know. Raymond says O scale isn't for everyone. Well, like I said, it's mostly the expense, you know. There's a lot of guys that do O scale, though. Russ, you're doing O scale, right? As well as HO, too? He says, my O scale collection is small. HO collection I'm comfortable with. So, O scales, they're beautiful. I mean, the nice thing about O scale is they're heavy. They've got, in some cases, more detail, you know. But they're just so damn expensive. I mean, it was last year I saw they had a DCC diesel in O scale with sound and smoke, and they wanted almost $2,000 for it. And I'm thinking, holy Christ, you know, I can't afford that. And Russ says 25. That's why I said $25. It was reasonable. And they had some that were a little cheaper, but you know they were kind of not that great. But I mean, but the passenger cars looked like they were in decent shape. I don't know if they were lighted or not, but who cares? You could always put that in there. And $25, and there was like a set of 4 or 5. That wasn't bad at all, man. Then they had a new set. It was the A and B diesel, and I think there were 5 or 6 passenger cars, and they wanted 600 and some for that, which really wasn't bad. You know, that was the whole set. You know, came with a track, transformer, everything. And I'm thinking that's not really bad. I mean, that's kind of pricey in a way, but in the big picture, that's not bad at all. I don't think, I think, I'm sure it was just DC. I don't think it was DCC, but you know, it's all relative when you get down to it, I guess. Thomas says I have an L&N 282 number 1516. That's cool. Yep, Jim. Yep. Well, that's the thing. Most of your O scale is Lino. I mean, there are other companies that make them, but the most common stuff is all Lino, and that's not like I said, not a problem. I wish I still had the O scale layout that I had when I was a kid. You know, it was just a circle or oval that we used to put around a Christmas tree, but had the steam engine with smoke, a tender. I think it was 5 or 6 different rail cars with it. I remember one was a generator car. That was cool. And it was another one that had the guy would come out with a milk carton or whatever, something like that, throw it out. And then they had the other, it was a flat car with a searchlight on it and a caboose. And there was a couple other cars. I don't remember what they were now, but that was a nice little set. I mean, that was, I guess my dad chucked it. I mean, you know, because it didn't come down with us when we moved to Florida. And it's a shame that he didn't save it, because it would technically even be worth money today. And I'm pretty sure it was a pre-World War II, pre-war. So, because he had it, that was his as a kid, you know. So, well, that's true, Raymond. It really is. I mean, the G scale. Well, but you know, you look at G scale, and G scale still looks like just a big toy. I mean, I'm sure they got nice stuff out there, but everything I've seen, basically just a plastic toy. So, I mean, I think the O scale is better built and probably has better components in it. So, G scale would be kind of fun to play with, but that's, once again, I got the land for it, but I don't have the money. I mean, I got, you know, a pretty big fucking area out here. I could put a lot of track on for G scale and have a really great garden set up, but I can't afford it. I can barely afford this in here. Oops, jumped over there. The Lionel Big Boy is 3 foot long. Yeah, I imagine it is. It's also $2,600. Yeah, like I said, they're not cheap. The rest says depends on the item, Ray. That's true too. Had the Lionel 2055. I don't remember. That was way too long ago. I remember the transformer in that thing was pretty big. And you could actually weld with it, you know. That's how powerful it was. You know, because we used to fuck around with, like, trying to weld shit on the track and stuff. It was kind of cool, you know, things you do as a kid. But, see, I have been in the hobby pretty steady since 72, only been in an O scale since 07, okay. Yeah, see, I was in it back in the 70s. It would probably been, well, 76, no, 78 and 79, I think. And like I said, my daughter was born, my oldest. I couldn't, there's no way I had, you know, I wasn't rich, but I made decent money, and the money had to go toward raising my daughter. So I sold everything. And I didn't get back into trains until after I had the stroke in 2008. You know, I got back into it. It was a year after I had the stroke. Well, the one that Deb has now, my wife has, that's a post-war. But I'm pretty sure the one I had was a pre-war. And they are worth money. Raymond says LGBG scale is intended to be a toy. It kind of, I mean, it really does kind of remind me of such, you know. Hey, Dave Nietzsche, how you doing? Good to see you. Like I said, they're kind of cool. The first time I saw one was at the hobby shop down in Naples, probably about 15 years ago. They had one up on the near the ceiling that would run around. It's like 3 or 4 cars on it. That was it. It looked cool, but you know, it's like, yeah, doesn't really look real to me. I mean, to me, I look for realism, you know. Now, if they made one like an O scale where you've got the detail and actually kind of looks real, it would probably be more interested in it, but it'll also be expensive as shit, you know. Can you imagine? I mean, they get, you know, $2,600 for a big boy in O gauge. Imagine what they'd want in G scale if it was on the same par. It'd be like 3,000 or more. So most, if not all, of my G scale is thrifted. Oh, you have G scale, Raymond? I didn't know that. Well, that's the way to buy it too, because like I said, it's kind of pricey, you know, to buy it new. They had some, I think they had some G scale at that train show in the Villages that Tom went to last week. I thought I remember seeing some G scale in there. I didn't see prices on it though. Rest says G scale has some quality manufacturers. I have a handful, but all are shelf queens right now. I hear you. Thomas says that was a 2-watt transfer. I have no idea. I don't remember. But I remember it was heavy, and it you didn't want to touch the fucking terminals. It shocked the shit out of you. You know, I didn't have one of those real big ones. I remember seeing like the one on the Addams Family. Got 2 handles on it. That thing's worth the I think they're going for like $500-600 now for used ones. Ray says O scale big boy takes a minimum 7-foot radius just in case anyone cares. I'd imagine it would, man. That's what I'm saying. I couldn't afford one to begin with. I don't have enough room in here, you know. Now Ken Amos Jr., he's going to have I think he said 40 by 40 train shed. He could do O scale. I don't think he's going to, but with that kind of room, yeah, you could do O scale. You know, if I had the money in a building that size, I probably would have done O scale too. You know, just because. But you know, you could tie up a shitload of money in O scale real fast. Thomas I have a Lionel train set from 19. That's the pre-war. There was some money, man. My stepson, before he died, he brought over 5 locomotives. They're all Lionels. 2 of them were pre-war and 3 of them were post-war. None of them ran. I repaired all but one. The motor was shot in the one. I couldn't fix it, but I was able to clean up the motors and, you know, get everything running again. The I think 4 of them had smoke generators in them that actually worked, and he sold them. I don't know what he got for them, but I think I did a price check on them, and one was worth like $300 or $400. The pre-war. It's all DC, of course, but fucking thing was heavy too, all metal, you know. Nice stuff, but yeah. Like I said, if I'd have had a place to use them, I would have bought them all. I could have probably got them pretty cheap. I'm sure he wasn't too bright. He probably gave them away for the most part. But said the Lionel ZW transformer is powerful, not to mention that style. That's true. And Thomas says all my Lionel trains have rail sounds. I like Deb's her tender behind the loco. It has a whistle in it that you could activate it through the transformer. And as a matter of fact, I gotta give it to her before Christmas, but I bought a new transformer for her. Well, not a new one, but a bigger, better one. Because hers is like a little plastic piece of shit. I got the old, you know, the heavy ass ones that you can probably kill somebody with. Yeah, swap that out for hers, and I think she'll get better use out of it. But yeah, the tender has, what they do is they overcharge it. You get a little extra voltage in it, it would activate the whistle in the tender. Pretty cool. It's a neat idea. So I had to fix that. It didn't work, but it does now. Hey, we us in the company railroad. Les, how you doing, man? Good to see you. It's been a long, long time. And Russ says USA Trains makes G-Skill that is well detailed. Really, I'm not familiar with any of that. So the ones I always see look like literally glorified toys. But I imagine they do make good stuff, but I'm sure it's not cheap. Raymond says, all LGB, very much all my LGB is from last century. I only have one Markland LGB wagon. That's cool. I don't have a place or the money to run something like that. I know Tom from Tom's Training, he was talking about doing a G-Scale in his backyard. And he may do it eventually one day, but because he's already got some stuff. I think he's got some of the cars, and I think he's got the loco. I don't know if he's got track or not, but track would probably be the cheaper end of it anyway. Russ says big hauler G-Scale are not as detailed, but are semi-affordable online and train shows. That's probably the stuff I see. Probably all Bachman stuff. But like I said, it just looked very cheap to me. It looked like a toy, you know. So I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know. Thomas says, Ray, the big boy had to have wider curves. Is not, you can wreck the big boy and be broken. Al said, he says, I have the Lionel 226E. Says I use the LW. Okay. Train Master. Well, this says it has Jim too long. I've been busy boy with PA work. and not usually home to catch up with you. I guess not. As long as things are going good for you, that's all that matters, you know. Uh, so yeah, it's like I said, I wish I had more money. I wish I had spent my other money that I had left over from the sale of my old house in Naples. I should have budgeted that better. But at the time, I had another concern was, of course, because I'm on disability, I have to be careful. You know, now I was able to justify and use that money. A lot of it went back into the new house, you know, because I did renovations and repairs, and at least 60 to 65,000 of it went back in the house. I had 107 to begin with. But if I had sat on that money, there's a good probability they could have cut off my disability for a while. Because they don't want you to have any real money, you know. Now it doesn't matter because I'm over 65, but prior to that, yes, there were limits on how much money I could have. So it's yeah, I guess so, Tom. We all wish we had more money. Some guys do, though. I mean, you know, there's I don't know if any, I don't know which one to use, Mike, but I've run into people on the internet that, you know, money's no object, man. They see something, they buy it, and it's not a big deal. Me, I can't really afford that, you know. I was looking, I got an email today, and it was like a flyer for Walmart, and they have a gaming computer that was regular $1,699 on sale for $985. So I'm looking at this. I mean, the guy literally took it apart. So they were really looking at it, and had an AMD Ryzen chip in it, 116 gig of RAM, with the RX 720 or something like that video card, the biggest one they make now. An MSI motherboard, gaming motherboard, terabyte SSD in there. This fucking machine was nice, you know. And I'm thinking, you know, I'd be tempted almost if I had the money to just buy that damn thing and be done with it, you know. Had liquid cooling. I mean, this was definitely a gaming machine, you know. Probably worth about the same as this one here in actual value, but it had some nice stuff in there, and that's why I said I can't afford it, but you know, Tom brought it up the other day, so it was easier just to buy one, you know, and I guess technically it would be, but I just, like I said, I really couldn't afford it. But if I'd have had the disposable money, I'd have bought that fucker in a heartbeat, you know? So I don't know. Like I said, it's just, but things are coming down in price, which, like I said, is a good thing. But I do wish I had more money. I really do. But it's the problem is I don't have any way to bring in extra money. I can't work anymore. You know, I mean, yeah, I could do 3D prints and stuff. I could sell some of it, but that's all nickel and dime shit. You know, in order to do it on a profitable basis, it wouldn't leave me any time to actually put my way out. And that was what I was getting into earlier, because, you know, I was building this and printing that, printing this for everybody. It's like, well, you know, shit. I was spending so much time printing things, I'm not getting anything done on my own layout, you know, which I wasn't complaining, but the reality, I really wasn't making that much money to justify it. And I'm not saying I'd bend people over, because I won't. But, you know, it is what it is. Let's see what else we got here. Russ says, I'm not a rivet counter, Jim, but I like realism too, and have things in scale is very important. Well, same here. Like I said, I'm not really a rivet counter either, but I still, some things I like it to really be just right, you know. Perfect scale, just enough detail and realism to, you know, to fool people. But you know, it's expensive to do that. That's the only problem. But that's what I actually, you know, try to achieve down the road. They have other toys I can sell to buy new MMR toys. I am far from wealthy myself. Well, I said none of us are rich, unfortunately. You know, if I won the lottery, that would solve a lot of problems, wouldn't it? But come on, realistically, what are my odds of winning the fucking lottery? I mean, I'm still going to try every now and then, but, you know, I don't take it seriously enough to where I really believe I would actually win. So I talked to my brother or sister, she's saying, I said, you know, one of these days I win a lottery, you know I'm going to split it all with you, right? He said, yeah, we know. We'd do the same for you, and they would. But he said the reality is, am I ever going to win it? Probably not. Let's see. He says, PK, it's bedtime for Bonzo. I remember Bonzo. Every day tomorrow will be listening, lurking, have fun. All right, well, have a good one, Ray. Thanks for popping in, and we'll see you next week. I don't have any time to count rivets. I just want to play with trains. There you go. Yeah, I'm into that too. I'd like to spend more time messing with them, but like I said, my trains are down at the moment. Hopefully not for very long. And Les is getting very expensive to import to here in Oz, 713 Australian for an Athearn SD80 Mac and CNW. Now that's a lot of fucking money, man. And that's the problem with Australia. You guys don't manufacture anything over there. Or do you? I mean, didn't Artie say there was a certain brand that they were manufacturing in Australia? That he bought some of them. The prices were really good for DCC stuff. I can't remember what it was called though. Sent me an email, did you? Okay, I'll check that out later. So, it is what it is. Like I said, I've got a, you know, I absolutely have to get a P42 for the passenger rail. I don't want anything else. I mean, I've got other locos here that I can utilize, you know, but it's not what I want to do. I want to put the Amtrak P42 on there. So I'm going to have to get one at some point. I'd like to buy one new, but if I find a decent used one, you bet your ass I'll buy it. You know. And I don't care if it's DCC or not, I'll convert it, you know. I'd like to get a Kato, but I would settle for an Athearn if worst come to worst. But they're about the only two brands that I would probably consider for that. You can't give me anything Bachmann. I just don't like Bachmann. I've had bad luck with Bachmann. We're not going there anymore. So I got to get that. And like I said, just basic, you know, rolling stock. I like to get some different stuff to put on there, you know. A lot of box cars and stuff like that. I got plenty of gondolas, and I can even have plenty of flat cars. But I'd like to get more box cars, you know. Maybe even some covered hoppers, because I think I only have maybe 4 or 5 covered hoppers. Tom Grassi said that just found an SD80 Mac on eBay new Athearn for $369.99. That's not bad. Of course, remember, anything you send to Australia costs a fortune to ship. I think it'd still be a better deal than what he paid, but you know, that's half the problem is the shipping. I've shipped stuff to Australia. And trust me, it's not cheap. No, I don't know. So much to do, so little money, and even so little ambition. Actually, you gotta come down to it. I gotta quit fucking around and get some shit done around here. And the place is a total mess. I mean, let me see, switch. I don't think that camera's working now. I've had so many problems with USB ports that most of my cameras are not operational. I'm trying to think, do I have any of them here that actually work? That one don't work. 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 None of my cameras work, you know. And I just realized I didn't even have my text up. And it turned off. There we go. Like I said, when I get the new motherboard back in, I'll have everything working again. And I started looking at different cameras too. Looking at Ethernet cameras and possibly even HDMI cameras. We'll see. And I don't have to get a lot of them, just to maybe, you know, relinquish a couple that are already on here. Like my tunnel cam, that's all the way down on the end, that faces the tunnel. That one hasn't worked in forever. I don't know if the USB cable is bad because I got an extension cable on it, which is possible. I might have to swap it out and see if I get it working, where the camera itself took a shit. I don't know. That's the only one I haven't been able to get working at all. It only ships to U.S. and is in Pennsylvania. Yeah, see, as I said, to ship that to Australia would cost a fortune. Unless says, oops, wrong one. Unless says Tom, exchange rate is killer. Our dollar 60 cents to yours $1. Then $90 freight becomes ouch oh, and 10% GST here on new stuff. Oh, your tax, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's very expensive to get stuff down in Australia. It sucks, really. But it is what it is, so. So yeah, I got to get everything operational again here. They said, and that's another thing. If I get the trains running, I got to have working cameras as well. You know, right now you can't even see the trains, and even my panoramic camera that shows the whole layout, it's not working. My East cam's not working. Tunnel cam's not working. Doodle cam's not working. West cam's not working. You know. So it's a pain in the ass. I'm gonna write that down, Tom, because like I said, I really didn't know there was so many to choose from. Ethernet model SV3C. Did you get them from Amazon? Because that's where I was looking at, and even if I don't buy one every couple of months, I don't know how expensive they are, but so what, The gym I had there, let me highlight that. I had to replace a curved section on subway track, could not clean it no matter what I tried. Well, that's what I suggested yesterday, just replace the track. And that fixed the problem, I guess. That's cool. So yeah, it's just like I said, it's one fucking thing after another. Jim, yes, the SV3C. I'll have to check that out. Like I said, I'm sure they're not cheap, but then I don't really care. you get what you pay for to some degree. And I have a PoE hub, powered hub, brand new, it's sitting in the box in the garage. I bought the fucking thing some time back. I guess maybe I was kicking around or something. But so that's good. I think that's good for up to 4 cameras. 4 devices. So I said I'm thinking that's probably the way I'm gonna go. Because the problem with the USBs is that you can use a couple on the computer with no real problems, but when you get beyond that, I think it really stresses the motherboard out, and it's not worth the aggravation. Not sure, we'll text you after your show. Okay. Let me put down here SV3C4K PTZ Wi-Fi camera, outdoor 15 wireless IP security camera. Damn. They read all that shit now. Well, not all of it, but SV3C 4K. So that's a motorized camera then. That's the PTZ. Pan something and zoom. Huh. I'll have to look into that, like I said. So that model I have is $170 each. Yeah, like I said, I knew they wouldn't be cheap. And I'm okay with that. Like I said, I can when the time comes, I'll probably be able to buy one every couple of months. But, like I said, if I slowly convert over to it, and that's fine, He's got this one here. Optical zoom, PoE, PTZ, security camera, outdoor. Well, that's the one I'd want there. That's the SV3C15X. There you go. Yeah, I definitely want a PoE camera. Wi-Fi, I don't know how well Wi-Fi would work in here. So 5 megapixels fine. Auto tracking, floodlight, color, night vision, 2-way audio. SD card to record. That's a nice camera. And a little cheaper too. It's $150. Okay. Write that down. That's why I said I'm gonna have to do something different, because these USB cameras, and the problem with the USB is they will drop off or change by themselves. Then you have to go back into the settings, find it again, put it back where it belongs. I don't know why they move around, but they do. And I don't think you have that problem with Ethernet or Wi-Fi, but the USB cameras, it seems like that does happen. Because like I said, on my Stream Deck, I've got main, which is what you're seeing now, the panoramic, which shows the wide view. I changed the other one, the remote, or that's actually the tunnel cam, east cam and doodle cam, and then the west cam. And sometimes the doodle cam will drop off and it'll become the east cam, or the west cam will become the doodle cam. I mean, I don't understand why the fuck it does that, but it does. So yeah, I already got the PoE Ethernet hub and the power supply for that. So the only thing I would need would be Ethernet cables and the camera. says with USB and Wi-Fi cams, you have a slower refresh rate. No problem with the Ethernet. Well, exactly. That's why I said I think Ethernet might be the best way to go. So that's probably what I'm going to wind up doing. But like I said, it's going to be a slow transition, no doubt. Because like I said, I just don't have a ton of money, you know. And you're not going to find those for $10, obviously. So, you know. And these, you know, these are fine for what they do, but they're just not, that was the word for it. They're just not reliable enough. That's the problem, you know. And I need reliability because I hate it when things don't work the way they're supposed to. Yeah, so that's kind of a big thing for me. I put something in there and it's like, this is what it's supposed to do, and it damn well better do it each and every time. Otherwise, I get pissed off and I want to throw it out in the trash. How many cams do I have? Let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 7 altogether. And like I said, the USB, like the main one here, the Logitech, that's fine. And that's a USB cam. I have no problems with it. It works great. Same with the panoramic cam. Normally that works fine too. The other cameras, like I said, I would like to swap them out. The Ethernet cameras. So that's 1, 2, 3. That's 4 cameras that I'd have to swap out. And that will solve a lot of the problems. And the other 3, they're fine, you know. So those SV3C cams support RTSP, which means they will work. Yeah, they will. Heath just did a video on what he uses for filming and switching between cameras. I'll have to check that out, Derek. I haven't watched Heath in a long time, but I probably need to, because you know he's on top of that stuff too. You know, crazy little fucker that he is. He's pretty smart. So I'll have to check that out. Like I said, I know there's a better system than what I'm using. You know, this is fine for limited reliability, but when you get down to it, it's problematic, you know. So I'll have to work on really converting some stuff over. And you know, I could always use these other cams in the other house, you know, or I always wanted to have one in the living room for the dogs. Sometimes when we go away, you know, we go to the store where we don't generally take the animals with us. And I'm always curious of what they do when we're not there. You know, are they having a conversation? Are they plotting to overthrow and take over the house? Who the hell knows? So, you know, it'd be fun to put one up in there, you know. Just, I mean, even though I'm kind of against having cameras in the house, because, you know, let's face it, they can be hijacked, you know. Even I have outside security cameras that are Wi-Fi. I even have one in here that's Wi-Fi, so I can, you know, look on my monitor and I can see the inside of this place. There's 7 other cameras around the yard. There's a total of 8 cameras on my security system. And they have wild parties. Yeah, they might, you know. You never know. Like I said, you know, who the fuck knows what they do, you know. They probably sit at the window and bark at every fucking little thing that goes by. But yeah, so I would never put, like, I would disconnect the camera when I was home, you know, because I don't trust nothing or nobody, you know. It's like, yeah, we're not gonna play that shit, you know. And then there are times I like to, you know, run around in the house without clothing. I don't know. Not to hurt your eyes or your minds, but, you know, anybody sees that, they would definitely go blind. So, you know. Derek says, from basic to overkill, my YouTube streaming setup. Did it last night. How do you do the overkill on it? What are you doing? And there's nothing wrong with overkill, by the way. That's been my basic tenet of life, you know. Anything you do, you should always overkill on it, you know. But, said Heath. Oh, Heath, not me. I'll have to check his out, but yeah, he's pretty slick with his tech. I mean, he knows a lot of stuff that I don't. But I can learn quick enough, so, you know, I'll figure it out. I'm not too worried. I'd like to put one up in the ceiling, a PTZ camera that had tracking capability that would actually follow the trains around the layout. That would be cool too, you know, for an overhead camera, like a drone simulation. Because, you know, the other cameras are kind of fixed, and that's fine. I don't really need a PTZ camera, but still doesn't hurt to have one. But I'd like to have one up in the center of the ceiling where I could actually rotate it around or follow the trains. And I think that would be a cool addition, you know, to the cameras. So, like I said, I got some great ideas. It's just a matter of putting together the money and making it happen. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Anyway, it's almost 9 o'clock and I'm gonna wrap it up. You know, the time flies when we do these things. It's amazing. You know, I started out at 6 o'clock. I look at the clock at 7. I look at the clock. Holy Christ, it's 9 o'clock. How the hell did that happen? But it does. And as usual, I had fun. I enjoy talking to all you guys. And we're trying to keep it train related as much as I can. But, you know, it's not easy to do. Maybe at some point. Well, like I said, when I really get into this full swing, and I'm going to some degree, I'll start videoing everything I do. So you can see how I do shit, and you can either make fun of me or say, hey, that guy knows what the fuck he's doing. It'll be one or the other, probably. But, you know, I think it'd be fun to, you know, watch me go through this shit. Because I have so much work to do in here, it's not funny. I mean, realistically, there is a lot, you know. You said I want to put in signal lights, you know, dwarf signals up in the yard. Got to get all these turnouts powered. And then I got to basically clean up a lot of stuff I have and get some details going on, you know, little things here and there to make it look realistic. I got to put some roads in. There's a lot of stuff that I need to do. And I've been kind of making excuses for a while and, you know, literally dragging my ass. I got to stop doing it. So it's time to quit fucking around and get some shit done. Anyway, so hope y'all had fun tonight. Have a good weekend. Be safe. Russ says, yeah, I feel like that way sometimes, Russ. I have 2 lifetimes of projects. Yeah, me too, man. Maybe 3. I said, I hope I live another 20, 25 years. It'll take that long to get all this shit done. You know? Probably my luck, time I get it all finished, that'll be it. I'll kick it and, well, you know. We'll see. But it is what it is. What can I say? Anyway, I'm going to run the outro up. And remember to... Now, you guys, you're waiting too long to flip off the signal guy. And basically, by the time it comes up, I got to kill the stream. So it doesn't always get on there. Do it a little earlier. Pretend he's got really good vision and he can see you flipping them off from, you know, half a mile down the road. Anyway, we'll see you later. And good to see you again too, Les. And everybody out there in train land, have fun, keep playing with your trains, and we'll see you next time. And here's the outro.